Hello, Guardians, and welcome to Destiny Reset, episode 142. This podcast is about anything and everything related to the Destiny franchise. If you love playing Destiny 2 as much as we do, you're in the right place. This reset may be our biggest ever. We break down all the info from the reveal of the Warmind expansion, get excited for upcoming changes to exotic weapons, and we finally talk all about AER0's big trip to the Community Summit at Bungie Studios. Hello, Guardians, and welcome. It's AER0KNIGHT, and of course, CyborgSasquatch. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Welcome
buddy.
back
Thank you.
to the real world.
Right? Back in the groove, the routine.
How's it feel just to have to go back home and go back to work after a fun trip like that?
You know, man, it's like I was ready to get home to the family because when you go on those, like, somewhat short notice trips like that, it just kind of throws everything out of whack, but it's fun while it's happening, and then you're like, okay, I'm kind of ready to get back to routine, you know?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Well, it's good to have you back. We're recording a little late this week because we wanted to fit in quite a few things, and
so much stuff.
We didn't want our listeners to have to wait a week to hear some important feedback and discussion on what came out today.
So much stuff today.
Gosh, man. I genuinely have not felt this excited about Destiny in a while.
I'm telling you, I
to this
tweeted
caliber,
out today.
You know what I mean?
I tweeted out today, I feel the magic and I'm loving it.
Absolutely.
Definitely, dude. It's just, there's so much.
A lot of cool things on the horizon here. So why don't we do this? Let's try to dig through the news.
Yes.
And then we've got, what everybody's probably waiting for and just going to skip ahead to if we weren't talking about the next expansion. We'll talk about your trip to Bungie. Sound good?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it sounds great.
All right. I've been looking forward to this. All right. First off, so this week at Bungie, of course, we got to play Iron Banner 6v6 again for the first time since Destiny 2. Did you get in some Iron Banner this week,
dude,
my friend?
I didn't. I was going to try and get it in before the trip, and it just didn't happen.
You have a very valid excuse.
Yeah, it didn't happen prepping for the trip, and then I got back, and I had one evening, and I wanted to spend time with my family, so no, dude, I got to wait for the next 6v6, but that's okay. You did, right?
I did, and I'll tell you this much, is classic Destiny 1 Iron Banner with all the bells and whistles, all the lag, all the long matchmaking wait times, like everything that made Iron Banner good and bad was there once again.
Nostalgia, all of it.
But it was a lot of fun, man. Like, we had some fun matches and some tough matches, but it felt like home. It felt good. I'm really excited that we've made that move, and I'm looking forward to the next one, which is only going to be in 3 weeks, or 2 weeks almost. I think
2 weeks, yeah. Yep.
I think it's going to be next reset.
Mayhem this week as you're listening to this, and then next week, I think.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Mayhem.
I don't have to wait long to try it.
So, of course, they talked about some of the changes in the Crucible with Derek Carroll in the TWAB. He mentions, how some things are going to be changing with Crucible playlists in Season 3. We talked about that last week. So we're going to move ahead through the TWAB. Next up, they talked about a weapon showcase. If you've been paying attention to Twitter this week, they've been pushing out, every couple days, a short preview clip of some of the exotics and the changes that are going to be made to some of our favorite weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I think last week we might have been talking about Graviton Lance, right?
I think so. Yep.
They showed us a clip. It looks really cool.
Oh man, I can't wait.
They also showed off a change to Skyburner's Oath, which basically changes the gun from, the archetype as it was ADS, you had like a slow firing scout, and then hip fire, it was a faster firing automatic scout.
Mm-hmm.
And the major change they're making is ADS will still be that slow firing scout, but then shooting from the hip basically makes a exploding tracking round, which is totally unique. Never seen anything like it. They quote, "It almost feels like a rapid fire grenade launcher that can transition to a precision death dealer with a press of a button." Looks really interesting. So this could turn that gun into something effective. I mean, it's always been a decent scout. It just wasn't any better at anything besides shooting through Cabal shields. That's the only thing that made it good.
Could be said for many exotics in their current state, which will change after this next patch. Yeah.
So this thing could be highly effective. Next up, they showed off Rat King. They're making some changes. They're going to have Rat King transition to full auto, mostly because they mentioned people can't physically pull the trigger fast enough in some cases, or didn't know that they could to take advantage of the fire rate. And then also the perk will activate even when you don't have it equipped in hand. So as long as it's in your slot, as your primary weapon kinetic, the perk will still trigger with your other fire team members.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. And then they've got some other information about how that's going to work. Check it out. They've got a really cool video of some Guardians using that on the Leviathan entrance, and you can see how crazy effective it is.
Yeah, dude, and John, who's talking in here in the TWAB, he's mentioned like on different occasions how excited he is and how much fun he's had tweaking these exotics and making them stronger. So,
I bet.
Like these clips, I mean, he did it on the stream today as well, which we'll talk about more later, but like they're looking unique and powerful and exciting. They're looking like exotics, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, that not in the TWAB, but on Twitter this past week, they showed a change to tractor cannon that essentially you shoot an enemy and it applies like a void buff on that enemy so that it then amplifies void damage.
I love that dynamic.
And they
like, when could you use that? It'd be cool.
Yeah. If you did the Nightfall last week, the Cabal, I can't remember this guy's, I think it's Brachus Zahn. They melt through him like he had half health, and they apply this buff and knock him out with like a grenade, a Nova Bomb, and some small arms fire in about 4 seconds. Half of his health. Pretty effective.
Yes.
Cool stuff. Then they also, just today, they showed off the change that was rumored. Cosmo mentioned this on Reddit a while back, but the change to hard light, where you'll be able to rapidly select the element of choice. They showed off a little preview of what that'll be like. It's similar to I think it's the Aurora Borealis. Is that the name of the sniper?
Yes. Yep.
You'll be able to change it on the fly. This thing is going to be so clutch in the Nightfalls and stuff, man. Oh man.
Yeah, and so we don't forget too, they said on the stream today that the ricochet, once your bullet ricochets, it does 2 times the damage.
Really?
Is what they said today on stream. Yeah. I'm almost certain, and I
know in the past there's been no damage fall off for ricocheting ammunition, but that's pretty cool.
It's exciting.
It's gonna be a fun thing to play with.
Strong, unique exotics.
So all these previews on exotic weapon tuning that we'll see drop with Season 3 in just a couple weeks. Exciting stuff. And I think we'll have more to look forward to. This isn't it.
There was just a handful of them that they didn't tweak, So
yeah, I think they've mentioned
a lot of testing.
Mida's not changing.
Of course, Vigilance, Merciless.
Vigilance
The
Wing
ones
is already
basically that
done.
feel pretty powerful already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'll see what else. All right, next up in the TWAB, they talked about Power Climb. I was excited to read about this, after the change they discussed last week with how delta scaling works and how enemies will feel more powerful. Now they're making a change to how power will be impacted and how the climb to max power will be impacted in the game, which, for a lot of folks, and we've even talked about this on the show, with the current design of the game, max power really didn't mean too much and wasn't as necessary. And even when you got there, you didn't really have a way to utilize it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they mentioned, essentially that has obviously become a fault in the way that the game plays out in the end game. So with expansion 2, they're making changes to the size and frequency of upgrades. They're going to apply across all of Destiny 2, not just the Warmind. Their goal is to bring back meaning and accomplishment to achieving the power cap, to give players a sense of progression when they come to play each week, and to reward players who engage in a broader scope of the Destiny 2 in-game content. They also mentioned they made an effort to de-emphasize grinding public events for exotics and to reduce the impact of clan engrams on in-game progression. That's something very specific that some people complain about.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they're mentioning there is 2 terms we need to be familiar with: soft cap and hard cap. Soft cap is the point you climb to easily via drops from any source. Hard cap is the power level you can obtain from weekly reward sources. So with Warmind, the soft cap is going to be 340. The hard cap is 380. And those numbers don't consider the +5 mods. So really you're looking at 345 and 385. 385 being max power.
Mm-hmm.
So their point is, our target is that players who participate in the weekly activities should take several weeks to reach the hard cap. Raids and trials grant the largest increases. Clan engrams provide very small increases, and the other weekly sources fall between those two. So they go on to explain how essentially players that play a wider variety of activities will have the best and shortest route to climb the power level. Players that only play certain exclusive activities, say trials or just raids or etc., it's going to take them longer because obviously there will be less rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is to have players feel like you've got a significant accomplishment in hitting that max power, which is something that often you felt in Destiny 1. It kind of depended on what expansion, but overall, this seems to be a change to put the grind in a place that, to me, sounds familiar in The Taken King.
Right.
I don't know if you agree with that, but
yeah, I agree. I was pleasantly surprised and excited about these changes.
Yeah.
Bring a bit of the grind back with the power level.
Mm-hmm. They're also going to change how one-time quest rewards work. So there will be certain caps that coincide with what part of the game you're playing. Specifically, like Destiny 2 launch quests cap at 260 rewards, Curse of Osiris 300, Warmind 340. Essentially, so you can't, create a new character, power them up real quick, and then go farm Mida, to boost yourself up. So they're taking some of the loopholes out. I think is fine. That's fair. Also, you won't be able to farm exotics to increase your power. If they drop from a non-weekly source, they'll come out of the engram at the same power as a legendary would after you've gotten to the soft cap. So obviously, exotics that come from a weekly reward source as a drop will probably have a better or higher power level than an exotic that you just pick up in the wild, that drops from like a public event chest or out of a big boss. So there will be some differences there in how those things impact your climb. So all in all, I think this is good. It is going to make it a tougher game for the casual player, if that's your goal, to hit max power. But typically, you're usually only interested in getting those higher power levels if you're trying to tackle the in-game activities, right? Yep. The things that have a power check. Now, that may change a little bit because of how they're changing how enemies scale in the wild. They even mentioned like in patrols and different stuff, so it may remain to be seen, but I'm trusting that they're going to be able to strike a balance there. And overall, if you're playing activities, you're going to get rewards that will continue to push you forward. It just may be a little bit slower climb if you're not doing things like raids and trials and a new in-game activity that's coming that we'll talk about, right?
Right, exactly.
All right, so then they go on to talk about the community summit, which this was kind of a prelude. We'll come back to that. It's kind of news that's past its prime now.
Yeah.
We did have some patch notes from 1.1.4, which are things that changed how Iron Banner works. You're mostly probably familiar with how that went down by now. Some fixes to some error codes and etc. that we can usually expect. And that was the majority of the TWAB there. That is still relevant, at least.
Very nice.
Welcome. I just
Nicely
did the
done,
news
buddy.
the fastest ever.
Welcome to the present.
And you're all caught up. So, now today, we finally got the first bit of visual and spoken and written information on the new expansion 2 Warmind.
Yes. I guess we could throw out
where should we start?
Little spoiler warning.
Yeah, if you didn't get to watch the reveal stream, or if you're just trying to go in completely blind into the expansion, which is really tough to do, but we're only going to talk about what essentially they've released publicly and was shown in the stream today. We don't have any other information that you didn't see that we're going to talk about story-wise or gear-wise or anything else that isn't public knowledge that you could just go and look for right now. So we're going to keep it to that, but we will talk about what we saw. So if you're a little reticent to hear about what's in expansion 2, maybe skip ahead a little bit.
Right.
Till we get to talking about AER0's trip here. So where to start, man? I guess we could start with the reveal stream.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, first thing we saw was a prologue to the game, which I guess they kind of used that like a trailer, right?
Yeah, I was
looking for the real full-blown trailer.
Yeah.
We didn't get that. We just got a teaser, and then we got the prologue.
Anna Bray
just kicking it off. If you are familiar with any of the lore, the grimoire, Anna Bray is a character that is mentioned many times and is associated with Clovis Bray, which is a big company that did all kinds of stuff across Destiny universe, including probably the AER0's, definitely the Warminds, and other things, but she was a scientist. And she lived during the Golden Age. So her popping up now is kind of a big deal because it's like, hey, she's not dead hundreds of years later. Spoiler alert, she's a guardian. That's the big first thing. Like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of legendary figure in the lore turns out to be a guardian. We haven't seen her ever, so I don't know where she's been, but but that was kind of a big deal. Like, I promise you all the lore guys are like all of Twitter about that right now. So they kind of showed her a little bit. She's talking about some stuff going down on Mars. Go watch it to catch up. And then they kind of kicked it off talking about Vicarious Vision, right? Or is it Visions? Vicarious Visions?
Yeah, Vicarious Visions, I think. Mm-hmm.
And how they have worked on this expansion in tandem with Bungie.
It was interesting because those two gentlemen on stream, they're basically the two guys that make sure everyone is working together nicely to make one cohesive, fun expansion.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And so they had what they consider the game director at Vicarious Visions. And then they had another gentleman that's a designer, and he explained his job is basically to help, the Bungie team and the VV team work together to create content. And they explain how they have Bungie folks at VV, and then they have VV folks at Bungie to help make that possible. But, they mentioned that they've been working together for 2 years, and we knew this, but they've never attributed any of specific work to that studio.
Right.
They were mentioned in the credits for D2, but we don't know what they did. But it seems like they really have their fingerprints on this expansion.
Yeah. Like, I wonder how, like, those minus coordinating the partnership or whatever you want to call it, how long they've actually been working on Warmind,
Yeah.
I mean, it
has to be
crazy.
some time.
Yeah.
I mean, these things don't come together in like a couple months.
Mm-mm. I mean, when you think about all the layers, man, like all the layers of an expansion inside of Destiny, there's so much that has to come together. And then you're like, oh yeah, and we need to consider all of the lore as well. So just putting it all together into one nice DLC package just seems like quite the challenge.
Yeah. And they mentioned as well that like they definitely have their own personality as a studio on this expansion. They said, cool. To paraphrase, like it's still Destiny. It's going to feel like Destiny, but you're going to see things that are kind of a unique spin. Mm-hmm. So that seems really interesting. Like,
yeah, the one gentleman challenged us to find everything.
Oh yeah, they mentioned there's going to be secrets, and the VV guy said I challenge everybody in the community to find everything we put out there. I'm like, oh.
There was a moment on stream too. I had to go back and watch some of my favorite YouTube content creators, and there's a moment on stream where Deej acknowledges that he saw something, and then if you freeze frame it, there's something under the bridge.
Yeah.
Like you can't really tell what it is, but it's like, oh, sweet. Okay.
And it's like, yeah, we're not going to talk what's under bridges or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if just judging by the content matter, like the whole the idea behind the war mines and all the technology and like the history of how they're created, like it's very much shrouded in mystery, but there's just a lot of little tidbits through the lore of, what happened with Rasputin and what happened with, Clovis Bray and all these things. So you have to expect like there's going to be some fun lore injected there. There's got to be some secrets to uncover. Like if you didn't do that, you just wouldn't do it justice to this subject matter,
Exactly.
Like it's so ripe for that type of experience. Just like, we got out of Rise of Iron with Siva. Like, you were exploring these vaults and they had all this, mystery and stuff that you found out about Siva and, just all those things. I think it's got the same potential. So I was really happy to hear what they have in store for us.
Yeah. I'm excited, man.
So they talked a little bit about that, and then they took us to a new end game activity that is located in the patrol destination on Mars. I think it's called the
Protocol.
Yeah, Extermination Protocol. I think the zone is called the Hellas Basin.
Yeah, Hellas Basin and Escalation Protocol.
That's just setting up for
activity.
So much memes. Like,
right.
I'm here to hella patrol, man.
Oh, you
Dad
started
jokes.
it. Oh, that was bad.
It was real bad, but I got to start somewhere.
Let me notate here. Do not edit out ads.
So extermination protocol, is that right? Hive. I
It
think it's
is
hive
escalation.
Okay.
Escalation. You're having trouble with this one,
I
aren't
was
you?
struggling with this.
We were talking about it before the show.
I'm like, what is it called again? And I still can't get it right. Okay.
Well, you, in
Hive.
your defense, they are naming them long, interesting names.
Yeah.
Like we talked about.
Hive escalation protocol.
Got it.
All right. We're just going to
Ding,
call
ding,
it
ding,
HEP.
ding. There you go.
HEP. All right.
HEP.
Hella, we're going to Hella HEP on Mars. All right. So this is a new type of public event / in-game activity.
Right.
And-
/ horde mode / thank you.
Yes.
But not officially like a true horde mode, but pretty close.
It's not fully realized like a endless
Like I
horde
want,
mode, but
it's so close.
it's definitely that type of activity. So as they explain, you go into the public space, you can start it whenever you want. You don't have to wait for it to trigger. You just walk up to this thing and activate it. And you can do it in the public space. You can, if you see it happening, you can just go jump in and join in. And there are up to 7 waves of Hive enemies. By the way, yes, Hive is the focused enemy in this expansion. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
Not what I expected.
Like emerging from the ice caps of Mars.
Yeah, it's like a new kind of Hive, like
Yeah.
Ice Hive. Next thing we're gonna have like Solar Hive, Void Hive. So you're fighting the Hive. I think there's bosses. I think they said like wave 3, 5, and 7. And
Yes.
there's a unique boss at wave 7, and there's 5 of them that rotate each week.
Yep. Unique chest at 3 and 5, and then a boss fight on wave 7. There's different mechanics in it, and it's cool, man. Like it's exciting.
I think there's a unique set of gear tied to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like unique, Archon's Forge.
Yep, unique weapons and armor, and
and the weapons have unique perks.
Mm-hmm.
And they mention some of the weapons will be vital to being able to complete these activities.
Yes, it's worth mentioning. We talked about it while we were hosting the stream today. They took in 6 Guardians into this. The idea is you'll probably have a lot of times 3 and maybe a blueberry or 2 running around. So this should be a rather difficult activity when you even at high light levels.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be running around with 6 all the time. You're not going to coordinate that, So
yeah, they made sure to focus on that this activity is going to be end game difficult. It will require specific strategizing of weapon loadouts, class loadouts, just like going into a raid or a tough nightfall, which is exciting because that means, it's got some interesting mechanics and you've got to work together. And dude, I'm so stoked to play this. I'm so excited.
We want to talk about the Valkyrie, right?
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, man. So it's a new relic type of thing that you get with this activity, and it spawns with a special item in the game. I think it's
I think they call it like an
source
armory
code
token or
yeah, and you get it elsewhere, I believe, but you can spawn these things they're calling the Valkyrie, which is like a spear rocket launcher is what they described it as. You basically can just throw this spear and it just absolutely destroys your enemy.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks cool. And I love, of course, popping out into that third person, running around with that thing just down by your hip, It looks really cool.
Yeah, and they mention, it's powerful and you'll want to use it strategically, because it's limited to I don't know how many shots or HP you get with it, but it didn't last long.
Wait until the boss or something before you go spawn and pick the thing up,
Right.
Strategize.
The other thing we saw is, because we're going to see Hive, when they have certain unique Hive spawn nights, they will have the swords like we had in Destiny 1 that you'll
yeah.
be able to pick up, and they say they work just like the Hive swords in Destiny 1, so you can sword glide and you can do power slams and all that stuff.
Yeah, and some of those enemies had, oh my goodness, what are the name of those Hive enemies? They had shields.
Yeah.
Which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of that particular.
The Knights?
Yeah, Knights, sorry. Yeah. Hey, look at that. How do I forget that?
Yeah, I don't know how
Knight.
We'll just
Anyways,
chalk
they had
that
shields,
up to burnout
man.
right there.
Yeah, here, hold on. Edit out at...
Nice
I'll
to be
take
the
that one
editor,
out.
huh?
Yeah, they had shields, so that was cool too, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, what this really looked like was Archon's Forge to an extent, but it also really reminded me of I think it was after the Dark Below expansion, and they had the public event. It took place in the Cosmodrome, and the Hive would go to war against the Fallen in this zone, and you had this unique Hive Knight that you had to kill. I think it started with a U. It was it's Urzok the Hated, and he was so hard to kill, but it was in Skywatch. So you have this huge just battle, and there's Hive everywhere, and it was super hard. You needed a bunch of people to do it. It reminded me a lot of that, like just the chaos.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Nuts it would be when everybody clashed.
I remember like coming out in the middle of the strike, and people would be doing that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just, when I was watching them play it a little bit, it just reminded me of that. It looks really cool. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah. Me too. Anything horde mode.
Yeah.
Again, not exactly the depth that I want, but you know what? It'll work for this expansion.
Well, and one thing they talked about before Destiny 2 was how, like the core of the game, like where the heart is people love shooting aliens.
Yes.
So any situation where you can just make that fun, it works, you know?
Yep.
And I've been
the added bonus of tying loot to it.
Yeah. I've been clamoring for something like Archon's Forge, like that particular piece of fun. So I hope this taps into that, and you know, it's like a totally new mode that we're getting for the game that's going to give it more depth. So I think that's a win for sure.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
And now you actually, can we say that you got your hands on this?
Yes.
Yep. Can say that now.
Yes. we played this at the summit, and hands on. Got to try it out. It is rather difficult. The reason I mentioned what I did earlier is because we only had a 3-man fire team, and it was difficult. I'm planning to post some gameplay on my YouTube channel, and we never made it past the first wave.
Oh man.
Now granted, we were underleveled.
Okay.
But it's still apparently very challenging.
But that's a good sign, right? I mean, starting out,
I love that.
If you're going to go into it, it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to, you know, power up and get more, more power, more weapons,
right?
Things that are going to help you complete it, right? I mean, that's fun because, a challenge is what a lot of people are looking for right now.
Yeah, and we very quickly realized, like, especially being lower power level, but just in general, that there's definitely some strategies at play. You know, like we figured out, okay, we need to wait before we use our tokens, if you will, to get the Valkyrie, and then just everything in general. Like we started to strategize after the first couple runs to try to figure out how we could beat this thing. But you'll see in my gameplay.
I can't wait to watch.
It's difficult. Yeah,
watch that footage. Watch you tackle it.
So,
how was
I was on a warlock, so I wasn't exactly maximizing my damage. Probably.
That's okay.
No, I just mean I'm not used to the class.
I feel you.
So.
I feel you. It'd be like if I was like stumbling around on a hunter. Be like, how do I do this again? How was the Valkyrie? Like, how did that weapon, that relic, feel?
It was cool, man. There's like particular spawn points for it. And again, you use that item that they talked about on the reveal stream today, and you only have so many, so you don't want to waste it. So you definitely strategize when and who's going to grab one and when you're going to use it. And it's fun, dude. Like, it's fun to throw through the sky and kill the aliens.
That's cool, man.
Like, it's neat. Like I said today, in our stream, I gotta say, you know, the hunter looks pretty sweet. It's kind of a natural weapon for a hunter, but Titans and Warlocks will be able to pull it off just fine.
They can play with it too, right?
Yes, of course.
So that was like the main thing from Warmind that you got to see at the summit.
Right.
And you got to try that out. It was funny, they brought up...
That was a nice surprise.
They brought up in the stream while they were playing that they actually took feedback from folks that were there that played it that said it was actually might be a little bit too easy, I guess. And they said they ratcheted up just a little harder, and they said like they did it like just in time before they finalized the build, so the final version is going to be a little tougher. So you can blame all these guys that and girls that
well, that's the thing, man. It's like they did on the stream today, they had 6 people. Several of the fire teams that even actually the people next to us where we were playing, they had 6 people in their fire team. So they made it to like wave 3.
Okay.
But we just had 3. So like we were trying everything we could do. We just couldn't burn the boss at the end of the first wave. And it was just an ogre, dude. Yeah. And we couldn't beat the first wave.
Well, of course, you know, there were definitely some very adept guardians at the event that I'm sure. Yes. You know, there's guys that
maximizing
like
everything. That's what they do.
They're so knowledgeable in the game and the tool sets that they, you know, there's guys that definitely would figure stuff out a lot faster than I ever do. But so maybe they were able to say, I might burn through this kind of quick. Maybe make it a little harder for me. So it gives you something to tackle.
Make the activities harder, you know, like. Who cares?
So that's cool, man. I'm excited about this mode. You know, we've asked for a horde mode to an extent for a while. And while, you know, you mentioned this isn't like the endless wave, as we always talk about, you know, they iterate and iterate. And maybe this is the step one day to something that could get better, you know, or deeper. And maybe they can build on this. You know, and add depth to it. Who knows? Possibilities.
My hope is one day. I would like if they don't eventually give us a horde mode that carries over in expansions, like I've mentioned. I won't go down that road again. Yeah. Give us a horde mode every DLC. Right. You know, like something like this, even if it's in a public event. But it seems like it would be easier if they would just build an arena somewhere on its own little star. And just add like the new DLC
like prison
enemy to it
on the reef in a remote location. I don't know.
Exactly. Something like that.
Just give us a true firefight. Over. Come on, Bungie. You've done it before.
Yes.
You know what you're doing. It's okay though. We're gonna take
this will work.
We're gonna take what we can get here, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Anything that like I really do enjoy anything that you can either go just by yourself in a public event and find guardians to play with, or you can take a fire team and just go and kind of just, you know, grind it out for a couple hours when there's, you know, when you're done with the nightfalls, when you've, or you're waiting for a raid, or, you know, everybody's just kind of chilling and you can just go in there and grind and have a good time.
Yeah. This way you're chit chatting. And even if you're like focused with the fire team, it's the type of activities that you can just kind of hang out and chat like you're running a strike.
Absolutely.
You know, trials and tents.
It just fits a very like specific kind of moment or like feeling of, you know, kind of what you want to play outside of like a strike that's linear. You know? So so cool, man. So this is a I think a great bonus to this content, something that we haven't gotten so far in Destiny 2, and this is going to be fun. So we saw that, and then after they showed that mode off, they took us into the Crucible, and I missed a chunk of this because I had to step away for a moment. Can you kind of sum up what we saw in the...
Yeah, so the first bit of it, they were kind of just showing off the ranking system, which is Glory and Valor. Now I'm going to get them confused. The quick play is Valor?
Yes.
I want to say
Pretty
yes.
sure.
And basically, that one just increases on increases on matches complete.
Yeah.
There's no going down in that ranking system. And then Valor is
Glory.
Man, yes, Glory. I knew I did
Editing.
it too. Glory, yes, editing. We're just gonna reference it every time. Glory is in the competitive playlist, and it can go down. So it increases
Totally based on
depending
wins,
on your
right?
wins. Yeah, basically. And then we learned that you can go on a streak.
You get
can
bonus
go on a streak. Yes, up
points.
to 5. Yeah, up to kind of like 5 times you get bonus points, and it can also work the other way. You can go on a 5 losing streak, and then it can't get any worse than that. But
that's good.
But the cool thing is, man, is there's rewards and stuff tied to this. So, like for example, there is a pulse rifle, which I'm only remembering the second half of its name right now. The something Claymore. Oh man, what was it? Anyways, there's different tiers of the ranking system in the competitive one, and once you hit that tier, you get this pulse rifle, which is very unique and got the community in an uproar today pretty quick because it has the outlaw perk on it, but then it has an additional perk that when outlaw is active and you reload, it becomes a faster firing pulse. So by default, it's one of the slower archetype pulses. So the unique thing about it is when it becomes when you proc this and it becomes the faster firing archetype, it doesn't lose any of its damage.
So it's impact.
Its impact, yes. So, which is the downfall of those types of pulses.
Yeah.
So, it basically is a beast, it seems, and instantly got the PvP community excited. So, but this thing apparently, from what I've watched after the stream and some of the coverage I've seen, it's not going to be easy to get this thing. And then you got to think about the competitive Crucible playlist matches you with like opponents.
Yeah. Based on rank, right?
So, yeah, based on rank. So, getting this thing is going to be a challenge, which, again, is fantastic. Not everybody's going to be able to get this thing.
Yeah.
And it's something people have been asking for from Bungie for a while, So, not everybody has to have everything, So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, I've
exciting.
seen some discussion, some debate about that idea. My mind has been for a long time that there needs to be things in the game that not everybody can get. If everybody can get it, then it's not unique. And,
right. And there's
especially for the PvP
excitement
focused player, just like the raid focused players have raid gear they can get and all those different, types of rewards you can get in the game. Those great PvP players, they need to have some unique rewards too, and some things that they're proud of and have to work hard for. So I think this is a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's neat to see them doing this, and it's not like we don't want people to have things in the game. It's just it's nice that there's weapons that are hard to get in different areas, different activities, and it gives you something to grind for, and it creates excitement for the community. So, and again, it's something to show off. I think about I heard somebody talking about it today. You go into the tower and you see somebody that has this pulse, and you're like, wow. Okay, yeah, that's okay. They're serious business. It's not
something
easy to
show
get that
off
thing
as well, right?
Yeah,
it's got some prestige and glory to it.
Yeah, I miss that, and again, that weapon, Your rank is going to reset every season, is the way we understand it, and there'll be a new weapon to chase every season, or new loot. I'm not certain if there'll be more than just this weapon to chase, since there's different tiers in these ranking systems. But man, call it a simple first iteration, but I think it's much more than that, dude. Like, this is going to be a big deal for Destiny Crucible.
I think so too.
You put this ranking system in here, a number to grind, you have different tiers within it, you tie loot to it. Like, this is a pretty big step for the Crucible.
For sure.
So, yeah. Anyways, I think after that they went on to show off some of the exotics that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So, we got to see those in action. We got to see the 2-tap of the
Sturm and Drang.
What is it? Sturm and Drang, yeah. And then Graviton was melting. I'm excited about that. I really want to use Graviton. And man, did they use anything else? They used Fighting Lion a little bit. But I don't know. It seems like it's going to be a packed, fun Crucible and or PvE, anything, man. These weapons seem like they're going to be fun to use.
Yeah, it's definitely going to give a nice injection into the arm of the game. Freshening up some existing content, as far as like weapons and, kind of what loadouts will be and what the meta is across PvE and PvP will kind of shake up there, which is good. It gives people something to do, experiment, new ways to play the game, which is always a win, on top of all the new content that we're going to get. So exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're getting a lot with this quality of life patch, I mean, we're still getting heroic strike modifiers too, right?
Yes. Which they didn't really even talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, along with the patch and this DLC is shaping up to be pretty nice. Yeah. It's kind of exciting.
So, also, a couple other pieces that they put out, since everything was kind of formally announced in detail today, there was an article on The Verge covering some of the new exotics and returning exotics. We won't spoil that for anybody. We'll leave that off. But if you want to check it out, there is an article. It shows pictures of the exotics with names. It's kind of like the preview screen. We're not seeing any perks specifically on anything, but some really interesting new stuff. There's some very notable returns of some Destiny 1 exotics that I think people will be excited about. So you can go check that out. And I don't think it's a comprehensive list. They only showed, I think, 2 weapons. So there's probably going to be other weapons that we'll see exotic wise that, of course they want to keep something under their sleeve, so to speak.
Yeah. And I mean, I did see just in the different channels today, there's definitely a lot of armor. Like you said, many are coming back, but there's
some new stuff too.
Quite a few
new pieces.
New stuff, yeah. So that's exciting.
Couple that I'm really stoked about. One in particular. You know what it is if you're a warlock. So there's that to check out. Additionally, there was the formal page on destinythegame.com/expansion2, which if you don't mind, I'll just read this summary real quick. It's just a little paragraph.
Yeah, do it.
Destiny 2 Expansion 2 Warmind continues your Guardian's journey with an all-new story. Anna Bray, a Guardian long thought lost, searches for a connection to her past, one that could be forever lost, on the polar ice caps of Mars. As Golden Age warsats begin slamming into the ice, the glaciers begin to thaw, revealing the core of the Warmind Rasputin and an ancient Hive army bent on its destruction. Now free, the Hive swarm in service to their god Zol. Help Anna discover her past and destroy the Hive's gargantuan worm god before it is too late. Some tasty bits there if you know the story of related things. Features all new raid lair, Spire of Stars, new themed weapons, armor, and gear to earn, all new ritual activity escalation protocol, all new relic weapon, the Valkyrie, new strikes, new story missions and adventures, new destination polar ice caps of Mars, access to multiplayer arenas, and private matches.
You just reminded me of something. It's worth mentioning that they had sparrows in the new space.
Yes, they do.
Today. Yes, so that's exciting.
I think as well, Jez on Twitter mentioned that the size of the patrol space is a little bit bigger than Titan.
Mm-hmm.
So decent sized space. Definitely bigger than Mercury. Not as big as say
some of the others, but
the Earth. Why am I drawing a blank? Editing.
EDZ.
The European Dead Zone. But yeah, so that's exciting stuff in there, man. Definitely excited to see what this new raid layer will be. And everything in between. The stories, the strikes.
Seems like it's,
there's some other stuff.
All coming together, man.
Yeah, there's some other stuff on the main page about a couple like little tidbits about the strikes. If you're into the Hive lore, there's one really juicy piece that I'm not going to spoil for anybody, but it has to do with a very mythical named Hive person. Just go check it out. Other little piece of news outside of the reveal today was on the 23rd of April, just a couple days ago, Holtzman, who is a Destiny YouTuber and streamer, now part of the Destiny Community Podcast. You may know him from his days at Planet Destiny, where he did a ton of content there, actually announced he landed the gameplay specialist job at Bungie. Pretty awesome. Congratulations to him. I think he's a great candidate for this job. If you missed it, if you're kind of behind on news, this was something that Bungie put up about a month or so ago. And it's a short-term kind of contract job for 3 months. So they were looking for a gameplay specialist, somebody that was very adept at the systems and gameplay of Destiny 2 that helped them focus on the end game of Destiny 2 and how it plays out. So he put up a tweet. He said,
he's the right guy to have.
Yeah. He said, today's my first day at Bungie. For the next 3 months, I'll be working as a gameplay specialist. If you don't hear from me, it's because I'm staying focused on the task at hand. To everyone who watched my videos, tuned into a stream, or supported the podcast over the years, thank you. You helped me get here. I will never forget that.
Yeah, man, it takes me way back, going to bed, sneaking in a few more YouTube videos of him doing a weapon review on Planet Destiny.
I mean, he has always done a spectacular job covering the game. Very adept player, very smart, knows the systems of Destiny very well. I've always trusted his opinion a lot, so I'm happy to see out of many very deserving candidates that he got that job, and I think he's going to do a great job for the players.
Oh yeah, talking in game and stuff like that. I actually finally got to meet him last week because we've been at the same. There were several creators that I'm like, it's finally nice to meet you. We've been at the same events, right? But we never officially met.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happens.
Anyways, yeah.
Well, I think that's all the major news this week. Finally got through that.
Yeah, there's the news.
Now it is time to talk about some more even juicier stuff, believe it or not. AER0KNIGHT, how was your reset?
Oh man, my reset. As you know, I did not play any 6v6 Iron Banner, even though I wanted to. I was a little busy visiting the old Bungie studios.
Well, if you haven't caught on,
that was exciting.
If you're tuning in for the first time in a while, AER0KNIGHT received an invite to the Community Summit for Destiny 2, where about 40 content creators were brought out to Bungie Studios for a 2-day intimate event where the creators could sort of interface with different developers and folks at Bungie to talk about the game, where it's going, provide feedback, in a face-to-face format, see a couple things, give feedback on some things, and etc. This has been a big build up to this event. People were really curious to see how this worked out. Is it just going to be a marketing event? Is it going to be the real deal? And so now we have AER0KNIGHT to give his feedback.
Tell you all about it. Yeah, there was worry that it was like a marketing type thing and this or that, but I can confirm, as maybe you've heard on many other outlets at this point, that it was definitely not any sort of marketing spiel or
it's not a PR event.
Directive. Yeah, it was not a PR event. We spent maybe 20% of the time. I mean, there are several things that I can't talk about, but there are many things that I can, and even more so, the reason we waited to record tonight so we could talk about Warmind a bit more in detail. But there are, we spent, let's say, just being kind with the numbers, 75% of the time talking with the Bungie team and developers, and maybe 25% actually playing content.
Which that part of that is also, I would assume, providing feedback in some way as well too, right? So
exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
so
obviously
there was follow-up even after the play sessions to talk about what we played and what we thought of
obviously you played the escalation blah blah blah. I still can't pin down the name.
Escalation protocol. I don't know why I'm having a fun time with it.
And so, probably other things that you can't mention that eventually you'll have an NDA expire on when that stuff becomes public, that one day you'll be able to talk about, right?
You guys will hear all about it. But I mean, there was another mode that we played, and it was cool, but that's pretty much all I can tell you. And I wanted to say too, just to kind of give you an idea of the first day. We go in, we spend the first 2 hours until lunch talking with them, and Deej tells us, that we get like a bullet pointed list of what is topics that they think are important, and we basically on that first day we spent about 45 minutes to an hour playing, and the rest of the time, the other 6 or 7 hours, chatting with the developers in different settings, with different groups of the team. And I mean, it was just open discussion, man. It was just question, back, conversation, add on to this, raise your hand. It just flowed really nicely. And I mean, we talked about anything and everything. Anything you could think of that the community has mentioned. We probably asked that specific question.
There wasn't anything like anybody held back on or anything that was taboo?
Oh, no. Nope. Dado, even if you've watched any of his stuff, one of the first questions that was asked was why if you will, the casualification of Destiny 2, like how that happened, why it happened. So, I mean, that's a pretty
it's a pretty pointed,
deep question to start with. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what it seemed, of course, that they wanted, because they brought all kinds of different community leaders there to bring questions and concerns that their communities had. And man, I mean, we covered, like I said, anything you can think of, we probably asked.
So I know that because of your agreement with Bungie and what you can and can't talk about, you can't necessarily explain what their specific responses were in detail, but you can say, okay, we talked about this question or that question. So obviously a lot of different stuff came up.
I mean, what was anything from like TTK to
what was the overall attitude of the conversations? Were the developers were they open? Did it take time to kind of get them to open up about things? Were they eager? Were they withdrawn? What what was the vibe as things kind of got cranking up there?
Man, it was so it was great. It was very like organic environment, and it was just a healthy back and forth. Like just to give you an idea, kind of what I was trying to say a minute ago is someone would raise their hand to start a new question, a new topic, and that would start and they would ask it, and then the developer would respond. And then someone who thought they had a something to add to that would just kind of say it aloud instead of raising their hand. And we would just go back and forth for a little bit. And then, they being the Bungie team would then say, oh, you know what? I'm actually interested in what you just said. Let me ask you what you guys think about this particular thing. And then we would say our feedback, and then 4 more hands would raise, and we'd move on to different topics. And it was just very constructive, productive, very real. Book. Yeah, man. There was no limitations, it was just very real conversations that we were having. And, and just to clarify, of course, part of the reason why at the moment I can't say what their responses were to our questions is because some of the things we were talking about are a ways out, and the things that they were telling us very easily could change at this point.
Sure.
So hence that's the reason why at the moment I can't say their responses.
You were very much getting a peek behind the curtain of a work in progress.
Oh yeah. Because we all know Warmind is here, and there's not much that could be done there. So this summit is definitely about the future. It's about September. It's about the fall, and beyond. And that was really cool for all of us. You could just feel it in the room. Like it was cool to be a part of that. And again, like I can't really think. There were very few times, very, very few, like maybe 1 or 2, if that, where they said, like, we can't say at the moment, or, you know what I mean? Like, very, very little did that ever happen. So it was very nice to have that environment. It was really neat.
So obviously outside of like group discussions, did you get, any one-on-one time with developers there? Like,
oh yeah. There was different ways they segmented the discussion. Sometimes we were all in a room, and sometimes it was different settings. But it was, and then even breaks at lunch or this or that, they made it a point, man, to, I specifically remember saying, I forget who I was standing with at the moment. We had tables where we could eat lunch, and they were coming and making it a point to stand with us at the tables and eat lunch and talk to us. And, there were many times where I'm like, okay, like, I don't want to keep bugging them, but that's the whole point. We're there. Right. So we did. And then they would just say like, no, I love talking about this. This is great. And we even got the same, they would ask us, sometimes just in casual, in between the sessions, like, what do you think of this? How do you think it's going? And then, of course we would ask them the same thing, or even not ask them. They would just volunteer like, this has been great. Like, this has been excellent. And you could just feel that vibe across everyone. There was, even to today, I have not seen any reaction to this other than, wow, like this is exactly what we hoped it would be.
So you feel like the dev, like that Bungie and the devs there, you feel like they felt like they benefited a lot from the event?
Oh yeah. They said it on multiple different occasions, whether just be chatting with them out in the hallway or kind of in different sessions that we had. They would, acknowledge like this has been excellent. This has been great. Like the immediate feedback we get from you, and stressed like the importance, because that's some of the criticism that they got is like, why do you have to send all these people out there when you can just go watch a YouTube video or something? But there is a lot that can be said to a face-to-face conversation with all these community
actually
leaders.
having a dialogue as opposed to
exactly
a one-way communication.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it was. And it was fantastic, man. And it felt really neat with it being exactly what we hoped it to be, to feel like we're representing all these different communities and we are having an impact on the future of our favorite game. You know, of course, you know, Bungie, they're taking all this feedback and these conversations. There were actually people transcribing taking notes, and official Bungie team taking notes and transcribing the sessions that we had. And like, you know, of course, like you've probably already heard, now the ball's in their court. Deej even tweeted it out right after the event. Very nice of him. He's like, in other words, to paraphrase, like, no pressure should be put on these community leaders. We asked them to come. We had conversations with them, and now it's our responsibility to deliver with Destiny 2 moving forward. And I mean, you know, it is ultimately, you know, they've got to take what we said and run with it. But man, I mean, it was very, very productive, very cool. And I wouldn't doubt if this isn't, I think we'll see this type of event again. They even kind of hinted possibly at that after seeming very pleased with the way this one went. So,
well, that's great, man.
Cool.
It's, you know, me and you even, you know, we talked about the event beforehand and discussing, you know, what kind of things that you would like to talk about and, you know, how you need to go into it, just what mindset. You know, we kind of discussed, we didn't know what it was going to be like. Nobody else that you would talk with knew what this was going to be like. And so we, you know, I think.
Well, everyone's used to going to a capture event, and this was 10% or less capture events, and the rest, conversations with the developers, which is kind of crazy when you think about we're right at a DLC release. Now, granted, they had the reveal stream today, and they did let us capture some footage. So, you know, of course, there's DLC hype there, and they do want excitement around that. But man, did they not spend very much time on that, which was great.
Well, I think that, you know, lends some credibility to what, you know, what they said that they wanted to do with it. And overwhelmingly, everybody that I've heard from that have, you know, talked about the event, you know, they've come back and said, you know, in so many words, like they, you know, they came through on what they said they were going to do with this, which I think is really positive. I mean, it's not like they can solve all the game's problems in 2 days, but the fact that, you know, they were able to, they listened, it sounds like.
Man, and I mean, like I mentioned before, we talked about TTK, we talked about rewards, we talked about cosmetics, we talked about, I mean, dude, we talked about unique perks on rewards for specific in-game activities and why we think they're important. And I mean, anything and everything you can think of that's probably been on Reddit or a YouTube channel, like we probably covered it. And actually the thing that was brought up initially the least, just because we would go off on these conversations, was the lore, which is extremely important. And Mylan Games was there to represent the lore community, and actually ended up spending quite a bit of time with him. And we actually ended up having a little side meeting, him, myself, and Mercules from Massive Breakdown Podcast, and for about, just a little side session. We talked about the lore, which was unreal.
You talked about that with
sitting there. Chris Barrett.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't you say y'all had a person from the narrative team as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he acknowledged, that we didn't spend a whole lot of time on lore and offered that. And that's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing. I don't know, to be sitting there talking about lore with those individuals in the room, and I'm including, Mylan and Mercules in that, of course, was just very real and very constructive and productive. And it's like, wow, like we are possibly shaping the future of this game, our favorite game. So
very rare opportunity, unique. And
yes,
it's pretty crazy cool that, there's millions of people that play this game, and you and other, 39 or however many other people got to go and, in some way have some kind of impact on the future of this franchise. And that's really unique and rare opportunity. And I think is awesome that they provide that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's worth mentioning, anybody that's throwing out YouTube content out there. I mean, Activision and Bungie did pay for us to go out there, and they, that was part of it. And it's like, we're not here to sell the game. We're not here to hype it up. We're here to talk about real stuff. And they, still did that part of it, which is unbelievable to send us out there. And if you go look at, Gathalion or MTAST or, any of these content creators that were there, the overall vibe is, I've been watching videos all week, is like, wow, like this is exactly what we wanted, guys. Like this, we spent time it's like we spent that huge chunk of time just talking with the Bungie team about anything and everything. And it was great. It was so cool.
That's really great to hear. I think our community should be encouraged by that. And I know that you did a great job representing our community. We talked about,
I hope so,
all the different things that we knew that our direct community wanted to talk about. We discussed things that
I asked about clans and the plans there. I did ask about
that's
that.
Great. Yeah. And you talked, you asked things that I wanted to know, things that you wanted to know, things that lots of different players care about. So, and they had a pretty diverse cast of, content creators and community leaders present. So there were all kinds represented, and I think that that's important as well, that they took the time to do that. So
well, and I have to mention too, I did also squeeze in my tower card game question.
Oh, that's awesome!
I had to while I was there, so I did squeeze that in.
Just threw it
but
out
man, it was like. Yep, I had to. It's like we got bigger things to talk about, but I found a moment to where I could just, I even said, like, okay, we can only spend 30 seconds on this question, if that, but I just have to ask.
You have to put it out there into the ether, right? Would ever have a tower card?
Yeah. Well, man, and it was just, the whole thing was quite the experience. I can't wait for you and I to go there someday together. And, it's like I had to set aside like this awe of going to my favorite games, my favorite studio, like the Bungie Studios, and it was, seeing the fallen captain and like taking a picture in front of the Bungie logo, and like all that was fantastic, man. There's so many little things in the lobby to check out, but it's like I had to like set aside the awe factor and be like, okay, we got some serious stuff.
I'm sure that had to be
to
hard.
talk about here. Yeah. So it was cool though, man. It was great to be in the company of all those great content creators, and everybody brought their A game. Like they asked all the questions, they asked their community's questions. We got a lot done.
And
for sure.
You got to talk and kind of start to build, some friendly relations with some of the developers, right? And kind of get to know what they're like. And I know that you told me, you really were pleasantly surprised, at just how much they care and how invested they are. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I've heard a couple times this week, some people had the impression, many people maybe, that, over the years that Bungie is this, just as the appearance of the company is this studio that just, they take feedback, but they know what's best, and they know how they want to do something. And, of course, whatever your opinion may be, we've seen quite a bit different Bungie over the last many, many months. And even before that, like, I had this specific talk with some side conversation. It's like, we know your like goals and your motivations have always been to like support and have a relationship with the community. It's just, it's a difficult thing to do sometimes. And I can't imagine the challenge that's there, but I think we can all agree they've been doing extremely better at that over the past many months. And, it's when you go there and you're talking to each one of them, like you said, you very quickly see, and this is to wrap back around to what I started this with, like the impression of Bungie as a whole. Everyone agrees when they talk to them individually, you don't get that vibe at all, man. Like these guys and gals love what they do. They love the game. They love the community. They're very passionate about it. And you realize that within the first minute of talking to any of them. And it's quite, I said, I think a couple different times, like, I wish everyone could just come here for an hour and have this talk with at least one of them and then go back home, because it's not possible to send all millions of players to the studios. But man, if they could, it would really just create kind of a real relationship for a moment. You know what I mean? And not just Bungie and their logo, is what people see. You know what I mean? And it really kind of set it home a little bit, to see, I mean, we know they're passionate about the game. They're not trying to create a bad game. And it's, you definitely see that immediately when you're talking to any one of them. So and there were many of the team there, many team leads, and from many different portions of the teams that they have, anywhere from clans to investment to Crucible, Sandbox. There were all kinds representing. So
that's awesome.
Very neat.
And you got to spend some after hours time that Thursday night as well with folks as well, right?
Yeah, they just kind of, it seemed as though maybe they just wanted to have like a little bit more laid back environment. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we just kind of got to just hang out and drink soda and just chat, man, about anything. I talked about kids and family with several of them, and just and that's another moment when, like, we talked still a lot about the game even then, and we're talking into the evening, and I'm like, when do you guys go home so you can turn your brains off? And every time the response was, man, I love talking about this game. Like, I'll talk about it all night long. Like, keep it coming. I'm like, okay, well, let's do it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, dude, it was really cool, and like, it's so hard because I don't want to just seem like everything was just so great and it was so pleasant and man, they're so cool. But seriously, go browse all the content creators that were at this thing. Everyone is saying this right now. Like, they are just excited about what this event was and how much we accomplished in a 2-day span, and how many conversations we had. And that's what I mean by accomplished. Of course, Bungie has quite a bit of work still to do. But yes, like, it was cool, man. And I was honored to represent our community, and it was unreal to be there. And I look forward to the day that you and I go there again. So
one day.
Very cool. Yes.
Well, I'm really excited to hear, how great that went, and that it was definitely a win for players of the game. and I think that hopefully this will turn into some really positive results in the game, in the future, whether it's in September or further down the line, whenever that is. I feel like Bungie is really investing in what their player base cares about, and I think that'll pay off.
Yeah. Well, let's just say that as we've seen today, Warmind looks like it's going to pack a punch. We're getting a lot more quality of life stuff with the patch that's coming with it. But September is looking amazing. Just in what we talked about and know to this point. So what's going to be developed indoor that we don't even know about, even coming from this event, like for September. September is exciting, man. Like it's looking exciting. So
can't wait. Can't wait to find out.
Yeah. we all, the magic is there, man. Like I feel the magic already with Warmind. Like I'm really excited about Warmind and everything we're going to get with it. I think you text me today, or we were talking at some point, and you're like, man, this expansion really feels like it's packing some content. And then, give us a little update over the summer, and then throw that Taken King sized expansion at us in the fall, and it's going to be an exciting many months here with Destiny.
So man, I'm really excited at the new breath being breathed back into the game, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I was
just some life.
I was just thinking about that today. Yeah, like it took it took a few months. It's been kind of painful for many, but we got here faster than we did with Destiny 1, and I really feel like for sure after 1.1.4, but with this patch coming in Warmind, like we are headed into some exciting times.
I think so.
And to make it even sweeter, man, like this relationship, this extra effort that Bungie's doing right now with creating this relationship with the community is to me, this summit was a surprise, but it was a natural step in what they've been doing since November, and I've said many times, if you're not playing Destiny and the game's not for you right now, no one can really argue that their communication hasn't been pretty excellent since they said they were going to do it in November, and this step with this summit was just a whole nother level, man. Yeah. So very cool. Very cool.
Well, great time to be a Guardian, my friend.
It is.
As always.
It is. Well, before we move on, man, I didn't play any 6v6 Iron Banner. You told us a little bit about it, but how was your reset?
It was good, man. You know what? I'm going to tell you a personal struggle as a Guardian the past 2 weeks. We're trying to complete the dadgum Prestige Leviathan. And, it's not for lack of skill or anything else. Like, my raid team just can't get their collective crap together.
You guys probably aren't running as regularly as you used to.
We're not. And so, everybody's a little rusty on the challenging stuff, and we're kind of getting it together. We're doing the prestige versions of the raid for the first time. So, we kind of got to learn those variations, nothing too crazy. And in one night we got all the way through to Callus, and we would have beat Callus, but somebody stepped on one of the wrong plates in succession, and it cost us a DPS phase that would have finished it off. So that was tough. And then, when you get to it's like 2-3 in the morning, like there's just a point at which
start to wear down.
Nobody, like, people just can't execute, just one little mistake, everybody else is on point, but somebody's tired, you make a mistake. And there's a lot of moments in the Callus fight as well where some wonky stuff can happen, like some weird stuff that can basically wipe, it can kill a person, and that can domino into like basically having to wipe the encounter, which that's a phenomena that's common in Destiny raid design, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, we didn't finish it that reset. And then this past week, The first encounter was dogs. Dude, I will be damned if we cannot finish that dogs encounter. And we did it the previous week. We tried it 2 different nights. Can't get through it. I feel like I'm a total scrub. We couldn't finish the dang thing. It was like one.
Oh, man, you guys are just out of your normal weekly rating team.
Yeah,
chemistry,
and we've supplanted a couple people. Like there's 1 or 2 folks that haven't always rated with us that are now, and there's kind of a different chemistry, and part of that is being total goofballs, and we're having a great time, but we're not focused, so it's like I don't feel like I'm having a bad time. I'm having a great time, cutting up, but we're not getting anything done. So it's just one of those things, like we're just banging our head against the wall. We're gonna keep trying at it because we want the clear. We want to have it done. Get some of that loot. Be able to say, all right, yeah, we did this. Get our finish our Legend of Acreus shotgun, which that's part of it. Like the last step is you got to complete the Prestige Leviathan. We just never did it when it came out. Like I don't know why we just stopped rating at that point, but we kind of just did. We weren't interested. I think it was partially like the loot wasn't there. Like there wasn't anything interesting enough to go after.
No incentive. Yeah.
So anyways, so that's kind of been part of my reset the past week or 2. And, we're going to try to tackle it again this week and we'll get through it. But just Guardian problems. Like we'll get it.
You've been playing, God of War.
I have. Right? Yeah, man. I couldn't help myself. I got that Friday when it released, late Friday night. Yeah. And it sucked me in pretty quick. I played all those, back when they released all through all those years.
Yeah.
And was a huge fan of that series, and it's been on ice for a while. And so this new game, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. It's different, but it's the same. It taps into things that you'll like about the old God of War. Builds on some other things. It's still a little bit different. There's a more of a focus on storytelling for sure. But it's almost like a soft reboot of the series. You don't have to have played the previous ones to play this.
Okay. Yeah, see, and that's what I played some of the other ones. I never beat any of them. Just wasn't, they were cool games. It just wasn't, they didn't speak to me like they did others.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I would have sat down, I could have got into them. But after seeing my feeds this week, dude, I tweeted out, I'm like,
nuts
okay,
about this game.
I'm like, it is apparent that I need to change this, and I need to go pick this one up.
I might be 10 hours into it. So like, from what I understand, if you're like taking your time on this game, it could easily be a 30-hour game. So I'm like a decent way into it, and my thoughts are it's a good game for sure. It hasn't blown me away. I'm not like, oh my god, but it's a good game. I'm gonna play the whole thing, and then I'll kind of give my take on it. But I would pick it up if you got a PlayStation. I think it's a definite buy. So check it out.
Do that, man.
Yeah. So that kind of sucked me away from Destiny a little bit this week from Iron Banner because I got a little hooked.
Well, that's the problem too. Is like we're so close to the expansion, and I actually have some stuff that I need to finish up. I can't even remember we were talking about it actually on the show right now or beforehand, but like I haven't gotten the Sturm and Drang. So like I got some stuff. I still don't have, believe it or not, dude, I just have to do the strike to get Acreus.
Okay.
Like I've been so set on my loadouts in Destiny that I didn't completely finish getting some of these weapons. So it's like, okay, I got a little bit of a to-do list. Oh, and then I've got the one that everybody has. I have got to, even though we're getting like some extra space, I've got to clear out my vault, dude. I finally like max that thing out, like shaders are like getting in the way, and
I'm gonna do enough. I keep cleaning stuff out, but I still have probably more I need to clear out. So
well, everybody would be happy to know that I'm not using my Postmaster as Vault 2.0 anymore.
Good.
However, I have been saving everything, so I have engrams galore right now for no particular
open
reason.
Up your vault and they just spill out
stuff in.
Just pile of engrams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The locker.
Yeah, my postmaster, there's plenty in there
funny.
right now. So,
but yeah, trying to, you know, I'm still keeping up with Destiny and still playing games, just fitting it in when I can, you know.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Destiny, man. You can just play it here and there throughout other.
But believe
games.
me, I'm gonna be all up in this expansion when it drops May 8th. I'm actually taking the day off. Got to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing is when those expansions drop, you have a month or two usually of like just crazy.
Yeah, you can play real heavy
and then after that you can kind of just do your ritual thing and fit in a God of War or something.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. So, it's a manageable game.
Yep.
Well, great, man. Well, this has been a fun episode to talk about all this new and just everything that's going on in Destiny.
Exciting. We had so much to cover. Yeah, sorry it's a day late, guys, but we really wanted to be able to cover the Warmind stream and everything that we knew would follow.
We weren't going to make you guys wait a week to hear us talk about that.
Yeah.
Come on. Usually, this part of the show where we do Dirt Fam Discourse, we're gonna hold off on Discourse this week just because the show would run kind of long. But next week, we'd love to hear what you thought of the Warmind reveal stream. You know, what you anticipate the most on May 8th. You know, what kind of burning questions you have, what you're debating over that we saw new. Send us an email, destinyresetpodcast@gmail.com or speakpipe.com/destinyreset. And you can...
Yeah, or just tweet at us, guys. We'll have a conversation with you. Let us know.
All right.
At Destiny Reset.
Time to give a shout out to our patrons. We have a new patron this week.
We do. Big O patron shout out to Chronic. Thank you, Guardian, very much.
Thank you for your patronage. If you don't know what we're talking about, go to patreon.com/Destiny Reset, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support the production budget of this show. That money goes towards things like, sending AER0KNIGHT to Bungie. JK. They paid for that. Things like hosting fees and for the website and, what it takes to produce fun art assets and just all the things that go into creating a high quality show for you, the listeners. So we appreciate all of your support. You can also support us with a one-time donation if you would like. We have a button for PayPal on the website that you can click and you can do a little tip there. And we have folks that do that too. And we thank you for that support. It means just as much to us.
Very much so.
Also, a reward if you become a patron, you get a shout out on the podcast, you get your gamer tag posted on the website, get an invitation to a Discord channel just for patrons and supporters, where you get to ask AER0KNIGHT all the things to break his NDA behind closed doors. Just kidding, Bungie. No. All right, man.
Yeah,
great show.
This is quite the beefy show.
We'll be back next week.
Next week, I'm sure it's DLC time, man. So there'll be plenty of things creeping out over the next couple weeks before that DLC drops. I pretty much don't even try to avoid spoilers.
Just give up on that. And we got some great guests that we're getting lined up to come on the show over the next couple months. So you'll have lots to look forward to there. Awesome people. In the meantime, where can people find you, Arrow?
Guys, you can find me on Twitter at the AER0KNIGHT, and you can find me on YouTube and Twitch. It's just AER0KNIGHT, and be looking out on my YouTube channel because I'm planning to release a couple playthroughs of the first wave of Escalation Protocol because my fire team of 3 couldn't pull it off, but definitely please check it out and let me know what you think.
Awesome.
So, anyways.
Yeah, you can find me at CyborgSasquatch on Twitter, mixer.com/CyborgSasquatch, where I stream.
How's the stream
going,
dude?
It's fantastic. Yeah. And I'm going to be streaming leading up to the Warmind release and day of.
Ooh, yes.
If you want to come hang out day of when it releases, I will be live. So come on by, and I'm going to be doing maybe a little cool giveaway or two that day on release. If you want to get some cool Destiny and or maybe blue microphone swagger.
I was going to ask if we wanted to mention that. Cyborg and I will both, at some point, be giving away a nice fatty piece of loot from Blue.
So go follow me on Twitter on Mixer if you're interested in getting some free stuff. And you also want to come hang out and chat and watch me play Destiny 2 and other games. Finally, you can find us at Destiny Reset on Twitter or on the World Wide Web, www.destinyresetpodcast.com. That's your source for all things DRP. Also, if you want to join the community, it's really easy. Join our Discord server, discord.gg/Destiny Reset. It's open to anyone who wants to be awesome with us.
Exactly. Yes. If you're looking for a positive, friendly, welcoming community, then look no further than the Derp Fam. There's Guardians chatting in there all day long.
Thank you to everyone who gives us reviews on iTunes. We always appreciate those.
Yes, actually. We got a new 5 out of 5 this week, but up to the last point that I checked it today, it wasn't a written review. If that changes, we'll give you a shout out next week.
We thank you for that, though.
Whoever you are, Guardian.
Yeah, if you listen to us on iTunes, or I think it's called Apple Podcasts now, come and drop us a review. We really appreciate that, and it helps us get seen by more listeners who want to hear about Destiny. So thank you for those.
Yes, thank you very much. Dude, all right, man. It's time to get this thing out on the airwebs,
Get to the editing bay. We've got a long night ahead.
All right, dude. Well, until next week, guys, have fun playing Destiny 2, and take care, Guardians.